Hi, folks. This is Anuj Tewari. Good to be here again. I'm the CISO for TMF Group. So essentially, organizations in terms of digitization and move to the cloud, especially in the new normal, as we like to call it, which largely we have seen a shift after the COVID, has largely been strategies towards cloud first, mobile first, and enhancement of user experience and also user ease. Now, this, of course, has had a direct impact on the overall cyber security posture and how we have looked at the cyber security defenses and both offenses in the past. Earlier, as you would believe, there was always defense in depth. So there were multiple layers. It was like a fortress always. Yeah. So you would know where your crown jewels are. You could put multiple layers around it and you knew what to protect. And you could always, kind of see if the things are right or wrong. Today, the data, whether it's customers' data, companies' data, is spread across literally everybody's mobile device or their personal devices at times, and even the corporate devices, which are no more inside a physical building and they are dispersed geographically. So, in the new normal, I think the cyber strategy that has become very important is a keyword that I think that gets heavily talked about. Of course, is zero trust. And that said, I'll probably simplify zero trust in the fact that it's important that we are able to establish not only the identity of the user, as in the authentication aspect, but what is increasingly becoming more important is the authorization aspect. So once we know who the person is, do we really know they are doing what they're supposed to do? And there is no creep in terms of the access or control or mechanisms they are kind of reviewing and looking at. So I think that's, in short, a big change towards the cyber posture in the new normal. Thinking from a new normal aspect that we just talked about, in the new normal, of course, we saw a lot of things transform. So when we talked about cloud first, when we talked about mobile first, when we talk of ease of user access from an extranet standpoint, that instead of everything behind being inside a data center, everything was going towards the cloud. I think one big thing that has changed from a cybersecurity standpoint is the big resignation that we saw lately in the past couple of quarters. I think skill is something that is becoming more important. And no matter how great the tool is, no matter how great the technology is that we are using, if we don't have the right person or the right architect or the right person configuring it and then making sure that it is aligned to the business requirements and not what is there out of the box by default, then of course it's something that is a gap that a lot of companies are seeing, not just on newer technologies, but even on existing technologies, especially from a skill shortage standpoint. So I think the next way forward surely is that one, go back to basics. Yeah, I mean, do your basics right. Think of what we used to do in the olden terms in terms of patch management, having your antivirus right, and also ensuring that there is as much automation possible. Like I said in my previous comment as well, I think the boundaries are disappearing very quickly. And as the boundaries are disappearing, the technology teams also do not know where to focus, how to focus. They can't visit a certain building or a certain region anymore. The devices or the applications just show up and the users are dispersed across the globe. So I think it becomes very important that automation, some sort of artificial intelligence, machine learning techniques are used more and more, whether they are towards cybersecurity threat intelligence, whether they are towards automated healing or things which have been working fairly well in the industries like SOAR, like security, orchestration, automation, and response type of technologies, where one can at least automate a few simple playbooks. Also, think of another aspect. So, what I talked about right now was the technology aspects. There is also a human aspect. We realize that people are leaving and we can do things to try and retain them as well. So, one thing that I learned from our teams was, and also talking to some of my peers, was that people get tired of monotonous tasks. And I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, even I get tired of monotonous. Everybody does, right? It's human tendency. So it doesn't excite us anymore. I think they might not find doing the same thing in a security operations center, let's say, over and over again, challenging to them on a day-to-day basis or enrichment from their career standpoint. So I think hence this automation and taking away the mundane tasks also in a way is indirectly motivating the employees and trying to address the skill gap thereby. But those would be my 2 cents. I think from a security measure standpoint, we have always talked about technology DR. And I think of my days 10 years back, and it used to be always ITDR, which was technology disaster recovery, and which was more like having a failover link or making sure that there is a second server being in redundancy. But today we are really talking of cyber resilience. And essentially, it is one layer beyond the business resilience that we have talked about from a continuity standpoint. Now, what's essential is that no matter where the workforce is, no matter where the workplace is, our cyber security technologies and security should adapt to that. And I think that's the crux of the cyber resilience, which sometimes people don't focus on these days. Essentially, cyber resilience is there are two themes in the industry which we commonly see. One, of course, is making sure that we are resilient from a cybersecurity standpoint, as in we are able to adapt to threats, newer threat vectors, new hacking techniques, and make sure that we are safe. But the other aspect also is that when we evolve, see, the hackers are evolving with AI ML technologies. Today, nobody is targeting computers manually. There are all computers and supercomputers behind it, right? So essentially, the defense and the organization itself also has to make sure that the cyber security today is resilient enough that with changing landscapes, with changing geographies, time zones, or technology types, our controls and what we are trying to protect remains the way it has been configured. For example, if let's say my server today is hosted in Ukraine, and we recently saw Ukraine Russia conflict. So let's say if a server was hosted in Ukraine and now there is a conflict, it should not ideally mean that there is no backup outside, or it should not ideally mean that a ransomware hence was able to attack through it, or the patching mechanisms were not right. So again, I think it kind of all comes back to keeping cyber hygiene right and making sure that we are cyber resilient and support the business both from a confidentiality, integrity, and availability standpoint. There are two ways to look at this, right? So one is the compliance aspect of what you really need to do. There is a regulation around it, and so I mean, let's say there is a stick behind it. Yeah, very simple and crude words. So where there is a stick behind, there are usually you'll see investments, you'll see reports, you'll see communication going through. Then there is also a fiduciary responsibility. I think we pick up our mobile and make a payment because we trust a certain app. We want to bank with a certain bank because we trust that bank. And I think more than compliances, trust is the new currency that any cybersecurity practitioner can, give to its customers, its stakeholders, its board. So I think compliance always sets the guidelines or the guardrails of what good looks like. And I think they are good to adapt, they are good to follow through. But eventually, what really matters is how do you make sure the government is comfortable with you, your customers are comfortable with you, a common citizen is comfortable with you, and you are a responsible business. So, not just you are doing something for compliance sake, but you want to do it for the right reasons. So, I always feel that the compliances are becoming stringent because again, digital technology and all things 4G, 5G, and God knows what's going to come next is coming into our lives more rapid than we know it. So the way Web3 is evolving, I feel like the day won't be far when we actually will have a chip embedded in our head. And with that coming, we've got to get more cognizant towards privacy. We've got to get more respectful towards the fact that others are entrusting us. So we've got to kind of put that trust back. So yes, compliances are becoming stringent. They ought to become even more stringent in the future. That said, I think it's an exciting opportunity for every organization to also play their responsibility and act as a responsible enterprise.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.